everybody, Adrian Fuentes here. Did you know that the Democrats of Greater Tucson has a website, thedgt.org, and if you subscribe, it's only 20 bucks. You can support this great weekly communication where folks get together. Sometimes there's candidates, sometimes folks like me pop on to help understand what's going on in the world. The Democrats of Greater Tucson, thedgt.org. Join up today.
So glad that you're here today to meet Mariana Sandoval. She's the incumbent Arizona House member for Legislative District 23. She says the needs and priorities of working people like us continue to be dismissed. I'm a working class wife, mother, and community member. Like the rest of the community, I want good schools, access to affordable healthcare, prescription medications, housing, good paying jobs, and clean water and air. None of these issues are partisan, and we should focus on these commonalities and work together to achieve them. She was raised with core spiritual and cultural values that guide her in every facet of her life. These values guide her policy priorities and her vision for a better Arizona. Come November of 2024, she hopes she can count on your vote for re-election. Mariana's life exemplifies hard work and public service. She is dedicated to helping people. After high school, she put herself through college at Los Angeles Mission College and graduated with a degree in interdisciplinary and paralegal studies. She believes education is the great equalizer because it empowers our community to create sustainable futures. She believes that a safe and quality education should be affordable and accessible to all people, regardless of socioeconomic or immigration status. She began her career as a paralegal working with indigent members of the community at NLS of LA County, Legal Aid. And when she moved to Arizona, she continued in public service in the Arizona General Office, where she assisted in the prosecution of air and water polluters and the protection of wildlife. After seeing our public education system consistently ranking at the bottom and fellow Arizonans continuing to struggle with little action from the government, Mariana decided to take matters into her own hands and ran for the local school board. She went on to serve on the Agua Fria Union High School Board for 4 years, where her priorities were expanded opportunities for underserved and marginalized constituents and to increase teacher compensation. She continues her service as ex officio member of the board of directors for the Arizona Latino School Board Association. She knew that the fix to the public school system would have to come from a place above the school board level, and feeling frustrated because her local representatives did not seem to care enough for the public schools. She ran for the state legislature in 2020, in then District 13. She ran again in 2022 in the newly withdrawn Legislative District 23 and was elected to serve in the Arizona House of Representatives in November of 2022. She has remained in that role since January 2023. With over 2 decades of public service, Mariana serves her role in government as a continuation of her work. She approaches every situation and every challenge with a desire to help make people's lives better and give every Arizonan an opportunity to thrive. Let's give a warm Democrats Greater Tucson welcome to Mariana.
Thank you, Joseph, for that introduction, and thank you, everybody, for the welcome. I mean, you pretty much read everything
I did.
that I was going to say, so I don't know that there's much more to say, except I did grow up in Southern California, and as I was chatting with Bill, and I don't know your name, Bill's wife, because it doesn't come up on the screen. But yeah, I grew up in Southern California, immigrant from Mexico. My mom was a single mom. Then in 2007, we moved to Arizona. It was right before the market crash. I don't know if you guys remember that recession in 2007. We sold our house there and then bought a house here, and then the market crashed. So we bought at the height of the market. And so about a year after we bought our house, the market crashed and we were like underwater for about 10 years. So basically I was stuck here in Arizona. I couldn't leave. We couldn't sell our house. We couldn't refi. So you can thank the recession for keeping me here because all my family still resides in California. But at the time, my kids, when I moved here, I did research on the schooling, and the school systems in Arizona kept ranking at the bottom, at the totem pole, 48, 49, depending on what you look at. And I thought, how can we be worse than the South? How can Arizona be worse than Alabama, Louisiana? We're not the South. And so I did some research. I saw that there was openings in my local school board. And so I went, signed myself up, ran, and then served on the school board, and then learned that it was in 2007 that the funding was cut to our K-12 school system, and it has never been restored to this day. And as you guys probably all know, it's because since the Vietnam War, basically, this state has been run by Republicans, and every taxes get cut, funding gets cut to public education, and we are where we are now, where even if we get the majority, which is what we're trying to do right now, it's going to be really difficult for us to enact any new tax because they set up the tax cuts so that if we want to implement a new tax, it's going to take 2/3 of the legislature for us to be able to implement a new tax. And so it's going to be challenging, even if we do take over one of the chambers to change some of that taxing system. But there certainly is a lot of work that we can do in repealing a lot of bad laws, passing some good legislation that will help everyone, that will protect our environment, that will allow people access to affordable college, affordable housing. And so the work isn't done. I'm on my second year of my first term. There's a lot of work to be done, and this is why I'm running for reelection, because I want to be able to continue to work on all the things that we need to fix in Arizona for all of us here. To breathe clean air, to drink clean water, to protect the little water that we have. And so that's why I'm running for reelection. And I mean, if there's anything you guys want to know about me or have any questions, I'm going to open it up to you to talk. I don't want to talk the whole time.
Okay, that's fine. And I, really appreciate your background in education and school board. What committee assignments do you have in the legislature?
So I had the Ways and Means Committee and the LARA, which is Land, Ag, and Rural Affairs. And then I was also assigned to a special committee, which is the International Trade Committee, where we basically, it's Republicans and Democrats. We travel to other countries to promote Arizona for businesses to come and invest here. And, and then for any business in Arizona that wants to go to those countries, we work with the Department of Commerce and the local offices in those countries. The word just escaped my mind. The embassies and their Department of Commerce to connect those individuals with those countries abroad so that they can learn how to get their businesses off the ground in those different countries. It's a really interesting committee.
Yeah.
There's another trip that's supposed to be scheduled at the end of in the middle of August, the end of August, beginning of September, to Asia, but none of the Democrats are going to go to that because we're all running for re-election. So.
Well, that sounds like a plan. So very good. Let's see. Do we have any questions? Any hands up? Bill Swan has a question for you.
Hi, Mariana. So thanks for coming today. It's great to hear your story and how dedicated you are to making our lives in Arizona better. So when you get up in the morning, what guides you? How do you approach your job as a legislator? And what do you have that you, in your heart and in your mind, that just kind of guides you day to day to help Arizona and all of us?
Thank you for your question, Bill. Well, I am a practicing Catholic, so I would say my faith guides me in all the social justice issues. My roots, my upbringing, we are a product of our upbringing and our experiences. My mother being an immigrant, being a single mom, growing up in attending Title I schools, all of that, right? All of that guides me because it's part of who I am, and I know that there's a ton of people out there that are experiencing or have experienced what I experienced growing up, either through the immigration system or, growing up with a single parent, growing up in a Title I school, everyday people that don't have the access to legal and social justice. And that's why I also worked at legal aid. That's, my mother was trying to access legal assistance when I was a teenager, and the local legal aid said, you're not poor enough, because she was in on food stamps or Medi-Cal, but she also didn't make enough to hire a private attorney. And so that's why I decided to go into the legal field and help people. So it's my upbringing and my experiences that guide me to work for everyday working Arizonans, that it leads my values and my policy, because I'm still part of this community. I'm a working person myself. Policy is personal to me. My husband is a member of a UA 469. He's a plumber. And so this job pays $24,000 a year. I had to quit my day job to do this job. So there is a financial sacrifice. And I tell people this all the time. There's a physical, a psychological, emotional, and definitely financial sacrifice in this job that a lot of people don't see. And so when I'm working every day and drafting policy, like, this policy is also personal to me, because we are having to budget and work with a lot less of an income because of this job, because I took on this job, right? And so I don't know if that answered your question.
It did.
Yeah.
Paul Stapleton Smith asks, it expresses his admiration for your good work in the legislature, and he says, you mentioned that we can do some good legislative work if we get a legislative majority for the Democrats. And despite our inability to repeal tax cuts to the rich without a 2/3 majority, he's being very ambitious here. What are the first 15 bills, specific bills, that you would immediately pass when the session starts, if we reelect you, or when we reelect you, I should say?
I have a list. There's a list, and we have lists, from criminal justice to, voting to education to a ton. But personally, and some that I've already dropped in my first and second year, is repealing Prop 300. The English only law. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Back, I think it was 2000, the early 2000s, it was before my time here, before I moved here. There was a law that was instituted that made English our official language in Arizona. And so as a result, native speakers, of whether they're indigenous or whether they're Spanish speakers or Africans or Asians, whatever they are, they're not allowed to speak their native language in schools. It's illegal. And so that really hinders the ability of students to be able to learn, because I don't know if you guys are any of you educators? No? Okay.
Quite a few of us are, actually. Yeah, we got Leoler waving there, and I know there's several others, including union members.
Oh, cool. So anybody there's an educator, and this is I learned this from my former school board mate, Mary Kay Utek, who was a retired educator. Kids learn to read only once, whether it's in Spanish, Tagalog, Vietnamese, whatever their native tongue is, they learn in their native tongue. And so there needs to be a transition into English when they start school. And when they're not able to speak their native tongue, they're not able to learn. And a lot of times, a lot of these kids get frustrated when they get to the middle school or high school years, and they end up dropping out. And so that is like one of the priorities for me. Also repealing the SB 1070 language. instituting red flag laws for guns, automatic voter registration for young teens when they register to get their license at 15 and a half. And those are just a few of the, our water, like making sure that we pass some good water policy. I know you guys probably know Stephanie Stahl Hamilton. She is like a water guru. She's been instrumental in helping me with a lot of environmental issues and water issues because she was a ranking member in natural resources until that whole Bible thing happened, and then the speaker pulled her out and they took her off her committees. But water policy, that's super important. So those are just a few that come to mind, but there is a ton of legislation. If you guys have any ideas or any recommendations, send them our way. I'm happy to add to my list.
Mary Gresham. She wants to know, well, thank you, first of all, for the importance of kids learning to read in their own language. I'm not seeing a question from her per se. She's just thanking you.
I saw your name in the Sierra Club primary election voter guide for 2024. And I see that you're an incumbent, and it's recommended that if people that live in LD 23 vote for you, and also your the other person there, Matias Rosales. Tell me, you listed a few things that you're interested in. What did the Sierra Club ask you about?
What have they asked me? Like,
I know you have to fill out a questionnaire, and I was just wondering how what you felt was some of the pertinent questions that were asked of you that got you the endorsement from the Sierra Club.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this, I forgot now, but when I was working at the Attorney General's office, I worked there for 12 years. 8 of those years I worked in the environmental enforcement section. And so I have a lot of environmental background on prosecuting polluters of water and air. And then the other 4 years, we represented game and fish. We're protecting wildlife and wild in natural plants that to Arizona. And so, a lot of the questions I'm totally on board with, like most of I'm on board with. Throughout the session, I was in contact with Sandy when bills would come through Laura, mainly bad bills that she would talk to me about in all of the times that she would tell me, like, this is a good bill, this is a bad bill. Whenever Sierra Club would sign in opposition or in support of any of those bills, I voted with Sandy. I think there was only one bill, and I forget which one it was. Because they're all bad. They're all bad water policy that Gail Griffin was trying to get through. They're not good. And I can't remember exactly what questions were on the questionnaire, but it was, basically all the things that I already support.
Good, thank you.
Okay, well, Bill Swan has his hand up.
Hi, Mariana. I was shocked to see what happened in the budget. I don't know if the budget's been passed and it's been enacted. I'm not sure of the process. But one of the things that was so shocking was the money being pulled out of education places in the, Pima County Community College, where they have ESL classes. They're going to cut those. Would they take a $30 or $40 million hit? It's just those cuts just absolutely just was shocking to me. I mean, education is where it's at for all of our people, whether it's trades, whether it's learning a language, and the community colleges in the state are doing such great work at that. How are you working to fight that, if you can?
You're absolutely right, Bill. And you hit a nerve for me, the budget. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch when we were explaining our votes on the floor. During the budget, we passed the budget. We passed it, and then we signed it right after that. I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed with the entire process of how that budget came to be. Last year, it was the same thing. It was basically a Republican budget asking Democrats to sign on to, which is what happened last year. And last year I also voted no on the budget. And then this year I also voted no. This year was supposed to be different. This year we were told that we were going to be brought to the table at the governor's tower and have discussions, bring our priorities forward. So we brought our priorities as a caucus, and then each of us had small group meetings with other Democrats where we voiced the individual needs of our district. And the way that it felt to me was last year, it was like, here's the budget, take it or leave it, and that's that. This year, I felt a little gaslighted. This year was like, come on to the box and watch the game from the president's box, but you don't get to call the plays and you don't get to coach. You just come and see, right? So we sat in those meetings, we expressed our priorities and our opposition to cutting of any social program, cutting of education, capping those universal vouchers that basically makes up half of the deficit that we have as a state. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Again, I feel that this was a 31 plus governor's office instead of a 29 plus governor's office, which is what I kept insisting that they do. It's 29 Democrats. I said, you got to stop negotiating from a 31 plus governor and start negotiating from a 29 plus governor and just get them to join us, right? Get two of them to come on board with us. And what I was told was basically, well, we can't find any two Republicans that will break. They're united, which, when we voted for it, we said that wasn't true. The majority of the Freedom Caucus voted in opposition. All of their pet projects, or what they call pork, was pulled from their districts, which amounted to about $100 million. And then we had a couple of our Democrats that, it breaks my heart, that joined them in voting for this budget. And all they gave us, in my opinion, is crumbs. They offered 15 million for the housing trust fund when there was 100 million on the table for other things. They balanced the budget on the backs of poor kids, because they also took the extra funding that is given to Title I schools where kids are behind already. And so it was very disappointing. I was not happy with how that went down. I was disappointed in some of our own, what I consider to be progressive members of our caucus, joining and becoming their 31st vote to move this budget forward. But I'm hopeful that next year will be better, and that we can restore some of that funding to vital programs. Like you said, community colleges do an excellent job for work ready, for our lower income students that can't go directly into college because of tuition barriers. And so that's where we are on that. I'm still hurting I'm still licking my wounds from that. So
thank you, Mariana. Appreciate your perspective.
Mike Bryan has his hand up.
John Yoakum has a question in the chat, but I want to follow up on this subject of the budget immediately with my own question. And that's, a comment first is that every time a state legislature comes on here, specifically Democratic state legislature, because we don't have any other kind coming to these things, I ask for a pledge to return to regular order for budgeting. A lot of people aren't even aware that, the way that we do budgeting here in Arizona has been profoundly broken by the Republicans. And they've, for many years, since they had both the legislature and the governorship, they've, basically set the budget in private and just passed it at the last minute and given us, literally minutes to read a several 100-page document. And this is not the way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be is in regular order. Each portion of the budget is assigned to each of the relevant committees, and you have public hearings with, testimony from stakeholders and state agencies and so forth about, what their budget priorities are and, what the community's priorities are. and and that's how it's done. It's done in public. It's done in the sunshine. The budget is crafted in the legislature, by the legislature, in full view of the public over a period of time, not, negotiated in the back room. And I'm really disappointed when Katie came in that she didn't insist that things return to regular order in that fashion. I mean, the Republicans might have refused, certainly, but she could have insisted and said that she's not going to, she's not going to negotiate in back rooms that way. She's going to do it in public. So I've been asking for a pledge from all our Democrats who are running for office in the state legislature that if we take back the state legislature, if we take a majority in either house, that you will vow to advocate for and vote for return to regular order in budgeting process.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you heard me say I was disappointed with the process, and that's what I mean. Like, not only the process with us as a caucus, but the process universally. It absolutely should be out in committee. Like, it should be open. People should be able to have input. This is your tax dollars, our tax dollars. It's our money. Like, I have nothing to hide. This is why we do reporting. And it should absolutely be done in that way. Not the way that it was kind of just one motion. You put all the bills together and you have your committee hearing, and that's what they call the committee hearing, with no input, without allowing public input and comment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh
that's
my God.
Good old fashioned log rolling.
Yeah, I mean, even in this budget, there are like those that cited, that joined the Republicans in passing the budget. They were able to come to the table. They were called to the governor's office. They were at the table negotiating for their particular, whatever they asked for. I was not one of those people, because I felt very strongly, about the things that should have been there, and the process was just very disappointing.
Yeah, all of our members and all of the community should have a say in our state's budget. So John Yoakum has a question. He says the legislature this year did want to do their job. They sent many items to the voters to decide for them, which, basically they're avoiding Katie's veto because they were, sure to draw it on most of those items. He wants to know if there are any of those bills you would support. Are there any that in your view we should vote for of those referrals that are going to the ballot this year?
The reason why it's not that they didn't want to do their job is that they saw the veto in some of those bills.
Record vetoes, yeah.
In order for them to get around that veto, it was like, let's send it to the voters, like HCR 2060, which is, SB 1072.0, which border communities have already said they don't want. I would say like 99.9% of those are really bad. We do have the AAA, which is the access to abortion. That was not, it does not come from them.
Yeah.
That's from the people from collecting signatures, that resolution that's going to be on the ballot.
Yeah, 800,000 of them.
Yeah, double what they needed. Yeah, it's very impressive. So that would be one that would say, support that. It would save women's lives. The others, we're going to have a voting guide, and from what I remember, they're all bad. But there may be maybe one or two. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we will have a voting guide, and I will forward it to Mike or someone, whoever, to disseminate to you guys.
Appreciate that. I do have a brief question. Mariana, I believe there is a primary in your district this year amongst Democrats. Could you talk about that a little bit, and why you're the best choice? Well, amongst the two best choices we get for the House, if you think you are. I assume you do, otherwise you wouldn't be running.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to be conceited, but yes. One, I'm the only one of the three that is actually have governing, well, no, Matias has governing experience too, but not at the state legislature. He's city council. He's been serving on the San Luis City Council for about 12 years. And also we have another gentleman that jumped in the race, who I don't really know I don't really know him. I don't know his background. I know we had a debate and he talked a little bit about, I think he was a retired truck driver and but other than that, I don't really know who he is. And so he's never served in any capacity. You know, what I tell people is this: if there is someone more qualified that wants to do this job, by all means, please. This is not hard. It is not easy. My district is massive. It encompasses 4 counties. I don't know if you guys know. Have you seen my district? If you see the map of Congressman Grijalva's congressional district,
Yeah.
that is almost the size of my district. So I live in Maricopa County, which is in Goodyear, and San Luis and Somerton and parts of the city of Yuma are in my district. So from where I live all the way south, encompassing 230 miles of US-Mexico border, the Lukeville Port of Entry, the San Luis Port of Entry, the entire Tohono O'odham, the San Javier Mission is in my district. Also, one precinct in Pima County. So I have Maricopa, Pima, Pinal, and Yuma counties in my district. And my district is rural, urban, suburban, and it's got very varied communities, you know, tribal communities, rural communities, suburban communities here where I live. And so, you know, I tell people this: if there's someone that wants to do this job and it's better qualified than me, then please take the job. I will gladly hand you the baton because it is very hard. But I have yet to see anyone that has touched every part of the district like me, that has a working relationship with the tribal communities like I do, that cares truly for the community the way that I do. When that happens, I will gladly, you know, hand it over, because what I tell people is the worst thing that can happen if I don't make it out of this is I can go back to making a living wage. And that
Yeah. Well, I got a follow on for that. What do you think are the most important issues facing the voters of LD 23 that specifically they should vote for you because of your position on those issues?
You know, it depends on the community, right? But I would say definitely education. I hear education, the economy, access to good paying jobs, funding for community colleges and universities so that kids can afford to go to these higher ed institutions. Those are the bread and butter issues for the communities, right? Down in San Luis, people don't mention the border or border issues. Down closer this way, and people that actually don't live in border communities are more interested in border issues than the people that live down there. The people that live down there have the same issues that we all have, right? They want access to better jobs because they don't have a whole lot of people that want to go. They have access to hospitals, to specialists. I'll tell you a quick story. We were down there for the 4th of July in the city of San Luis. They were having a celebration. There was about 17,000 people that attended this event in San Luis. And we were getting ready to clean up, bringing down there was a sign on the chain link fence behind our booth. And my husband came along. He went to try to retrieve it. He had his hand on the chain link. I don't know how his finger got stuck. Anyhow, this is kind of gross. His fingernail came off, okay? In the process of him trying to bring this sign down. So I turned over to the local city councilman, Luis Cabrera, that was there with us. And I said, where is the nearest hospital in San Luis? And he looks at me and says, we don't have hospitals in San Luis. And I was like, okay, so then where do we go? Like, I need to take him to urgent care. This is like almost midnight. And he's like, Yuma Regional is the closest hospital that is open right now, 30 miles away from San Luis. And so, you know, we ended up driving to Mexico because it was 5 minutes away. The 24-hour hospital was 5 minutes away. And that's where my husband got seen for 400 pesos. I don't know if you guys know how much that is, but I was
Not
like,
much. Yeah.
It's like $23.
Yeah.
You know, so not having access to just basic like specialists and basic needs, or even this voucher program that we have, right? Some people are like, oh yeah, we want, you know, choice on education. they don't have that down in rural communities, right? And so for them,
all.
those are the issues that are important. For people in other areas like mine is having access to good paying jobs and high, good big companies moving into our state to provide those high paying jobs. Training, like in the business community, we hear about like, oh, we don't have job ready individuals. But then we don't want to fund community colleges that do the training, right? And so we need corporations to pay their fair share so that we can have that funding and train those employees. And so it's the same kind of issues. Housing it's a big issue. The cost of housing, people not being able to afford housing, that is a big issue in the different communities that I visit. In the tribal communities, they don't have the basic necessities that, running water, electricity. In some of those areas, they don't have access to, the bus in the morning in the Tohono O'odham. Students have to get up like at 6 in the morning to be ready to get the bus, because the bus goes to pick up different kids. And then by the time they get to the school to get there on time, it's a long, long ride because of lack of transportation. And so I guess my answer would be, it depends on the community that I'm visiting or looking at or speaking to. But at the end of the day, it's pretty much the same bread and butter issues that we see everything in different levels.
Yeah. Well, your passion on these subjects makes it clear that you're actually listening to what the actual needs of the people in the district are. So I congratulate you and I thank you for your service, Representative Sandoval.
Yeah, absolutely.
I travel there. I talk to the people, like the superintendent and on the nation. He moved there from California to become the superintendent of that school, of the Babo Kivari School District, which is the only public school on the nation. And it cost him his marriage. Like he ended up getting divorced because he too is passionate about that community. And so when you see someone, that cares that much about a community, I mean, you can't do much more than join and also care as much, because you see that other people care, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm there, I'm talking to the people, I show up and I do listen. And so I do my very best to reflect that in the work that I do at the legislature, to represent the very various different communities that I serve.
Mariana, it's so good to have you here, and I'm doing everything I can to help you out. But how strong is the Republican opposition in your area?
Well, so out of the 4 counties that are in my district, the only county that I lost was my county, Maricopa. I won Pima, I won Yuma, I won Pinal. And so there is a lot of Republicans in Maricopa County. And also we only have one Republican running in Michelle Peña, which is the incumbent. She's the only one. So once we hopefully make it out of this primary, in the general, it's going to be hopefully Matias, myself, and Michelle Peña. And so we're gonna do all that we can to make sure that we flip that seat that we should have never lost. That is another point of frustration for me, because when I was running in 2022, I did express to the party and to the people, the powers that be, that we needed help, that it wasn't a shoo-in, even though it was a blue leaning district, and they didn't listen and they didn't invest. And so as a result, we lost that seat to a Republican. And so now we're, doing double the work trying to get that seat back that we should have never lost. If we had won, kept that seat, not one, but kept that seat, we would have been 30-30 in the House this past legislative session. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. We lost it, and so we're now trying to get it back. And on sitting an incumbent is always difficult, and so the key is, and then in addition to that, the city of San Luis and the city of Somerton don't have home delivery service for the post office. They don't have postal home delivery service. And so that is another voting barrier for people down there. If
Yeah.
people don't have access to a car, if people work late, they can't get to the post office to pick up their ballot or drop off the ballot because the mailman's not going to come get it from them. And so that's another thing that kind of suppressed the vote. In addition to that, in 2022, the Republicans really were out to get two of what I call our John Lewises of San Luis, the two women that have lived there for like 30 years and been getting the vote out, working in the community. They targeted them and they were charged with ballot harvesting. You know, remember that ballot harvesting law that
I do. It was a shame.
it was enacted a few years ago by the Republicans because they didn't like the fact that nonprofits were going around knocking on doors, getting the vote out, picking up ballots for people and taking them to the ballot box. And so they were the first women, and these are senior citizens. They're in their 70s. These are grandmothers. They were prosecuted. One of them was given 30 days in jail, and the other one is currently on probation. She's the vice mayor of San Luis, Gloria Torres, beautiful lady, the most honest and hardworking person. Somebody from within the city that had ties to the Republicans used a text that a neighbor sent to her and said, like, I have some ballots here. I need your help with them. It wasn't anything actual evidence of like her carrying the ballot or taking the neighbor's ballot, but she ended up just agreeing to a plea deal because she didn't want to have to go through trial and it was expensive, and she had to come out of pocket to defend herself. And so now she's paying restitution. She's on probation. Her doctor is in the Mexican side of because the border communities are able to use their insurance and with the doctor for the doctors in Mexico. So every time she has a medical appointment or a medical emergency, she's got to go to the probation officer and ask for permission to go to the doctor. I mean, it's ludicrous. It angers me when I think about it, right? That I see her often. She's a great public servant, loyal public servant for over 30 years. And she has been personally helpful to me every time I'm down there. If I need a place to stay, she always offers us her house. She's connected me and introduced me to many of the community leaders down there. And so anyway, it's one more thing.
It's absolutely infuriating the way that they've weaponized the laws against people who help poor people vote is what it comes down to. Is they've criminalized helping poor people vote.
Criminalize a neighborly good deed, right? Like the neighbor for Guillermina couldn't drop off the ballot because her husband wasn't home from work. She didn't have a car. And so Guillermina took the ballots and the Republicans were videotaping her, and that's the evidence they used against her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's literally a neighborly good deed.
So can we make contributions to your campaign on Act Blue by chance?
Absolutely. I am on Act Blue. If you go to my website, the link is right there at the top.
So I do have one last question, and that's, has ADLCC reversed themselves and taken notice of the fact that we need to take that seat back and are helping your campaign and presumably whoever your seatmate is going to be, their campaign to take back that seat for Democrats?
Yes, they are now. They are paying attention. They are they've hired someone. My seatmate is working with them. I am not working with them, partly because they didn't listen, and also because communities in districts that basically are past the 101, I feel are very neglected by our party, sadly. I'm literally the only Democrat on this side of the 101. I don't know if you guys know where the 101 is in Phoenix, because my district neighboring North 29 is all Republicans, and the district West, which is LD 25, is all Republicans. So it's basically just me on this side of town. And they've never really invested in us down here. My campaign has been grassroots, totally organized by the people down here in LD. Donna Duran, who's the LD chair of LD 25, Sarah Tyree, she's the chair of LD 29, Both of them have been instrumental and very helpful in helping me get elected the first time. When I first won, I'm like, we got elected because it was literally grassroots. I ran clean the first time, and this time I'm running traditional because it's more challenging. And also, one other thing that I forgot to mention, the Speaker of the House approves all of our travel. So any travel outside of my home to the Capitol needs to be approved by the Speaker. There has been instances where I request to travel to visit or service my constituents in other parts of my district, and they denied my travel. And so I still have to go. I still have to go service my constituents. I still have to show up to the reservation when they need me to go and speak to them. And so that is another challenge that I face that I didn't even know. And because I live in Maricopa County, I don't get out of county per diem. My per diem is $10 right now, and when we're in session, it's $35. Yeah, I know. So aside from the $24,000 a year that I make, and so it's very challenging. And so I say all that to say I was disappointed in their lack of investment in communities of color. My community, more than half of my voting base is in the Yuma County in San Luis and Somerton. And I saw a lot of their investment that went to other communities that are more white, more affluent. And so because of my personal experience, I decided not to work with them. I'm sure they're doing great work in other places, and my seatmate is working with them. So I want to be 100% transparent on that.
And the speakers he's referring to, let's just name some names. That's Ben Toma, who is famous for not even taking a second look at any Republican request for travel reimbursement. Even that which is clearly fraudulent, and there are several cases of that, which we won't get into here. But nonetheless, if you're interested, drop me a line.
Well, that's in the Constitution, because I went to see like our payroll person, and he's like, it's in the Constitution that any travel outside of your home to the Capitol needs to be approved by Speaker Toma. Luckily, because there is a legislative office in Tucson, I don't know if you guys knew that. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, it's at the state building, yeah.
Yes, there's a legislative office in Tucson. And so because of that, when I travel to Tucson, I don't have to I don't have to submit travel requests. But when I travel to the rest, or when I travel to Yuma, I do. Or any other part there's no legislative office.
Well, Representative Mariana Sandoval, you did a wonderful job, and really glad you came and visit with us today. So let's give Representative Sandoval a big round of appreciation. Here we go. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you all of you for your time. Thank you for inviting me. I love that. How did you do that?
Little rockets. Yeah, that's a new update.
little things flying on the screen, Mike. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for being active. Thank you for supporting us in all the ways, whether it's monetarily cheerleading us or writing postcards, however it is that you support Democrats. I thank you. I am very grateful for all of you, because we couldn't do this job without your help. It's a really hard job. So thank you, all of you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here with you today.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sandoval.
Hey everybody, it's Senator Mark Kelly. As all of you know, Arizona Democrats have had a lot of important wins over the last few years. We won 2 U.S. Senate races, and we delivered Arizona's electoral votes to President Biden and Vice President Harris. We elected Governor Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, and Attorney General Chris Mays. Now, those elections were close, and our victories mattered. Arizona Democrats from the federal to the local level have delivered real results for our state on critical issues like combating climate change, lowering prescription drug costs, protecting the right to vote, and preventing more restrictions on abortion access. The Democrats of Greater Tucson offers the opportunity to hear from elected officials and candidates about that important work and the issues that matter to them. That information will be invaluable as Arizonans head to the polls. So this election cycle, whether you're signing up to knock doors, make phone calls, or joining the Democrats of Greater Tucson to hear from and speak to Democrats in our area, please know that your voice matters and we need you on this team. Thank you.